Hello, and thanks for tuning in to the Ethanol Producer Magazine podcast. I'm Anna Simet, Director of Content, and today's episode is part of our preview series for the upcoming Sustainable Fuel Summit to be held in St. Louis, June 2nd through the 4th, co-located with the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo. And for these previews, we are talking to some of our speakers just to give you a quick look at what they'll be covering at the event. And today I'm joined by Tim Hughes with the Commercial Aviation Alternative Fuels Initiative, otherwise known as CAAFI, who will be presenting on the promise, progress, and potential of sustainable aviation fuel. Tim, hello, and thanks for joining me.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you this morning.
We're so glad to have you. So, Tim, I think let's begin by having you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and CAAFI.
I joined CAAFI in April of 2024. I had spent 20 years in state government in Kentucky supporting agriculture. I started out farming back in the early 80s, early 90s, and then I had the opportunity to start working for our state, both in grant and loan programs for the benefit of agriculture and rural development, and then served as our biofuel director for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And in my last few years, we're working in international trade on behalf of our Department of Agriculture. CAAFI, as was mentioned, is the Commercial Aviation Alternative Fuels Initiative. Organization was started back in 2006 as a public-private partnership between the federal government and various aspects of the aviation sector, the airline manufacturers, the airlines themselves, and the airports. And we serve as a conduit between various agencies, Department of Agriculture, Department of Energy, and the Department of Transportation.
Perfect. Thanks, Tim. So CAAFI has been working on SAF for quite a while now. What would you say has changed the most since the early days?
Well, back in 2006, we were in an energy crisis. A lot of that was dealing with conflict in the Middle East. So it seems like we've sort of gone full circle over the last few years. But really, the early stages of the CAAFI organization was really to try to address different ways of producing aviation fuel. Initially, it was called synthetic aviation turbine fuel. It wasn't necessarily focused on sustainability, but on looking at something other than oil as a feedstock for fuel production. And so the early work was really looking at how do you produce a fuel that meets all the expectations for safety, performance that's required for aviation out here, not only here in the United States, but around the world. And so part of the work over the years has been to diversify the different feedstocks that can be used. Currently, most of the SAF that's being produced here domestically and even internationally is using various fats, oils, and greases through the HEFA process. And so that's become very commercially adopted. But then we're also looking at going beyond that at other feedstocks as well.
Okay, perfect. So in your presentation title, you talk about progress. From your perspective, where do you think we're actually seeing the most real progress in this space?
I guess the one thing that really stands out to me is this has become really an international focus. Was doing some review this morning, preparing for the presentation in St. Louis, and just the headlines over the last few weeks, looking at the number of projects that are being announced in Africa, Southeast Asia, the demand for sustainable aviation fuel in Europe. And so I think whether we're focused on the demand side here domestically or the opportunity for exporting fuels to meet a growing demand around the world, it definitely presents opportunities, I think, for commercial development and agriculture interests as well.
Right, for sure. So, Tim, there's been a lot of talk about investment and airline offtake agreements. Are you seeing that translate into real momentum?
It's hard to say. You know, we are seeing an increase in production. The 2025 production approached around 200 million gallons domestically. That's a significant increase from 24. The first 3 months of public data for 2026 shows that January, February, March were all increases over the previous year. So we are seeing incremental increase. We're not seeing the steel in the ground that maybe we were hoping for based upon some of the announcements over the last 5 years. But there does appear to be progress in a lot of other countries as well.
Okay. So looking ahead, what would you say you're most excited about when it comes to SAF and what could really move the needle?
Well, I think, my background is in agriculture. I was a commercial grain and livestock farmer. And just to see what we've been able to do for rural communities and economic development, utilizing corn and soybeans for the production of ethanol and biodiesel, we've been able to do that without increasing the acres assigned to those crops. And so a lot of that's been done through technological improvements, yields based upon different crop inputs, the efficiency of the different crops to utilize uh, fertilizers, and then the resistance that those crops have to different pests, drought resistance, and things like that. So I feel like that we still have some opportunity to look at traditional agriculture, but then also utilizing a number of different waste streams, whether it's something like municipal solid waste or crop residues or things that are underutilized from the forest. All of those, I think, create a tremendous amount of opportunity to increase fuel production over the next few years.
Great answer. Okay, this is my last question for you, Tim. What do you think is one thing that people misunderstand about SAF or where we are today with it?
I spend a lot of my time in agricultural audiences, and I think the thing that most people don't understand or realize is that we're talking about producing a fuel that has to meet all of the safety and performance expectations of the airlines. We've been able to take soybean oil, used cooking oil, and use that in diesel engines with initially just filtering the oil and basically working as a replacement for diesel. But we've learned to really meet the performance standards of the new diesel engines, going all the way to renewable diesel product that is chemically different than the initial feedstock. The same thing with using alcohols and gasoline. It's a blend. It works, and we're finding that we're able to increase those percentages up to 15% in most automobiles, and in special situations. Deere introduced a tractor that can basically use pure alcohol to run. But that's not the same with the aviation sector. The fuel has to be the same here in the United States and everywhere around the world. It has to have a very high flash point, a very low freeze point. It has to have lubricity. It has to meet the different operational expectations of the different airframe manufacturers. And so most people don't understand that we're truly producing a fuel that is very technologically advanced. And to do that, that meets sustainability criteria has been quite a bit of a challenge, but we're making a lot of progress.
Well, I think you nailed that, Tim. But before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, it's just a pleasure of being a part of the BBI International's programs. I've been able to attend a number of sessions over the years, and it's always a tremendous networking event. I always walk away from the conference with new relationships, a better understanding of other people's perspectives on the industry. And it's really a good opportunity to get revitalized and encouraged about the prospects of going forward.
Well, thanks so much for the kind words, Tim. We sure do appreciate you and CAAFI. And I just want to thank you for chatting with me today and sharing your insight with our listeners. And I certainly look forward to your presentation at the Sustainable Fuel Summit.
Thank you, and look forward to seeing everyone in June in St. Louis.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, learn more or register at fuelethanolworkshop.com. Producers of biodiesel, sustainable aviation fuel, and renewable diesel, ethanol, get in free. Hope to see you there. Thanks for tuning in.